All right, we're back, and we're back to the big one. Larry Ellison's Keynote.
That doesn't mean we're back, though, does it?
Well, we're back to watch.
Hi,
everybody.
It's hard to tell
He's
if
got
we're
the
back.
Larry front going.
Okay.
I mean, we get right.
Let's see. I took some cold medicine about an hour ago, so if I do sit down on stage, it's not because I tore my Achilles. Okay.
That's sort of
I'm going to miss Aaron Rodgers this
sort of
year.
a dark
Anyway,
humor.
I'm not going to talk about the NFL.
No, he's talking about Nick Chubb.
No,
Generative AI showed up about a year ago now, and it changes everything. It's certainly changing everything at Oracle. Okay.
Oh, he's doing his own slides.
About a year ago, OpenAI demonstrated ChatGPT.
That'll be the highlight of Cloud
and
World.
much to
Larry
the
does his own
shock of the
slides.
people who developed ChatGPT, the baby talks. Seriously, the developers did not expect that. They did not expect it, and I'll explain why. OpenAI was a company founded about 10 years ago by Elon Musk. And what they did after, again, about a decade's worth of work, is they built this enormous artificial neural network.
Hey, man, I wish I could be in as good a shape as he is.
Artificial neurons, or what
he's a little older than me.
Call a billion parameter model.
He's 79. He's
and
I'm
no
trying
one
to be
built a model
nice.
quite this large before.
I want to
And
be
after they
like, I
built
want to look
the
like
neural
his.
network,
At least I want that body
they
when
trained
his
it
age.
on enormous
my own
amounts
face.
of data. It read all of the Wikipedia. It read the entire public internet. No one had ever trained a model on that much data before. But the artificial neural network itself was not different from the previous one or the one before that. It was the same architecture. The only difference with GPT 3.5 is the neural network was bigger.
Hey there.
The training data was more vast. So just because of this change in scale, suddenly when prompted with questions, ChatGPT supplied answers.
Chomsky
It
supplied.
engaged in conversation.
It's a Chomsky.
That was funny.
It was a big surprise for
Now
the
we
people
know.
at ChatGPT, for AI professionals, for the entire world, and it captured our imagination. Unlike most events in technology, most cool new tech does not get the attention of heads of state and heads of government and everyday people in other professions. Just doesn't. This is like Sputnik. Now that shows I'm a little bit older than some of you in the audience. Sputnik, when the Russians first launched the first artificial satellite around the world, it captured our imagination. It was news. Everybody knew about it. Everybody knows about generative AI. It raised the concerns of AI professionals who were concerned about the risks this new technology poses. It raised concerns about governments who've talked about regulating it. The writers' strike not far from here in Hollywood is partially based on the writers being concerned about their jobs. Who's going to write the next great script in Hollywood? Is it going to be some guy you know or some computer you don't? Everyone wants to know what comes next.
That was a nice line.
Well, I'm going to start by telling you what I think comes next, which is a worldwide race to build what comes next, to build better AI, still better AI, which will deliver a better future and will have significant associated risks, like all new technologies. From the first technology, fire, which can be misused, and spears, which can be misused, to later technology like nuclear power, which can be misused. All new technologies can be misused. However, by and large, technology and advances in technology have made our lives better, has made us as human beings more prosperous and more comfortable. Generative AI. Is it the most important new computer technology ever? Probably. One thing's for certain, we're about to find out, because countless billions of dollars are being invested
in the internet
in
of
generative AI
computer
and large
technology?
language models. ChatGPT 3.5 is no longer the current best thing out of OpenAI. Is ChatGPT 4.0. Just in the past 12 months,
I'm still not convinced
here,
that
ChatGPT, other
AI is
companies
more important than
have
the internet.
developed new large language models which generate not only language, but they generate images, they write music,
I think you
they
get it
write
if you don't have
poetry,
it.
they generate computer code. That's getting a little close to home.
For the Oracle
And coming
audience,
soon, and very soon, in the next 12 months, complete self-driving cars from Tesla. There's a new drug that's entering phase 1 clinical trials. The drug was developed in China. It's an antiviral drug. It's not a vaccine. It's a therapeutic that treats COVID-19, all variants of COVID-19, every single one. But it doesn't stop there. It also cures cousins of COVID, SARS and MERS. It's a small molecule designed by a computer that binds to a protein on that virus and prevents it from replicating.
Oh.
I told you AI is going to make our lives better in a lot of ways. There are associated risks. At Oracle, we're working on a voice digital assistant for for clinical purposes. So I remember once walking into Stanford and to go look at my X-rays, and they couldn't find them. And they brought in 1, 2, 3 specialists, IT specialists, to help the doc find my X-rays. Now you just say, find Larry Ellison's latest X-rays. Oh, by the way, show me where the bone is broken. There are more big surprises
Wait, he broke
coming.
the bone? He didn't
Lots of them. Most of the news is going to be good. All right, so how is this working out for Oracle? So far, we're pretty happy. It turns out that Oracle's Generation 2 cloud is very different from other clouds in a number of ways, but one of the most interesting ways is the network we use to interconnect our computers in the cloud is very different than what the other cloud vendors provide. We provide a remote data memory access network. That means one computer in the network can actually access the memory of another computer without kind of tapping that computer on the shoulder and getting it to interrupt itself. So it has the ability to move a lot of data from one computer to another extremely fast.
Didn't he talk about this last year?
Conventional networks.
Something like that?
Our standard
I think
network
you talk about
all
it
of
in
our
this
clouds
context.
uses our RDMA
No, not in
network.
this context, but the ability to
means that when we
prior
build
generation, the ability to
for
move data
training
extremely quickly
large language
because of
models,
this kind of
that would be a computer made of NVIDIA GPUs. When we interconnect those GPUs, that computer runs much faster in our cloud than it does in other clouds. Well, as I've said before, in the cloud, time is money. If we run twice as fast, it costs half as much. If we run 3 times faster, we cost a third as much. We are much faster and many times less expensive than the other clouds for training AI models. That's why NVIDIA is doing AI training in the Oracle cloud.
Safra's
Here is
comment
doing
this
AI
morning,
in the Oracle cloud.
you have to be willing to
Musk's
spend less money.
XAI is doing
It's really
the Oracle
a great
cloud.
theme for what they're
Plus
talking
dozens
through.
of additional technology leaders
Great
and
meme of
startups
a
are coming
theme.
to the Oracle cloud because it's faster, and much cheaper, much more economical to build your AI in the Oracle cloud. So far, so good for Oracle. The NVIDIA superclusters we're building, well, one of them will be the largest scientific computer ever built in the history of the Earth. I remember when I used to keep track of where the world's fastest computer was. Was it in the United States? Was it in Japan? Where was this computer? Was it built by Cray in the old days, or by Intel, or who built it? Well, the new answer will be NVIDIA and Oracle. And it's a bunch of NVIDIA H100, 16,000 of them connected together with our RDMA network.
NVIDIA is truly the it.
Now, there are two things that make a computer fast when you're dealing with AI.
Peter,
One is how fast are
really
GPUs,
Peter
how
Barra.
fast do you process the data.
She
The
was
other is
the
how
it girl
fast can you
back in
move the data to the
1910s.
computer to process it.
We lost
And we do that
Becca there. Hopefully she'll
much,
come
much
back.
faster. And if you're not moving the data fast
Yep,
enough,
there she is.
the processors are just waiting. And our big advantage is we move data
There you
better than
are.
anybody else, because we started using that RDMA network for our database, which specialized in moving data around. It so happens that's the same problem you have with GPU clusters, moving data around. It's a problem we solve for database and reuse
So it seems the theme
in building AI models.
today is speed equals
Okay,
greater
Oracle's been
efficiency
using
equals
AI for
less
a
cost.
very, very long time, many years.
Yep.
But this is different. Generative AI is a revolution. It is a breakthrough. It's transformational. It's fundamentally changing things at Oracle. I'm gonna see if this works. I'm gonna bring a chair over.
I like that he just is
Just
never
walking down
phased with anything that
Forgive
goes
me.
on.
this is great.
Uh,
Well, again, 79-year-old guy, man, he shouldn't be
I'm
walking.
happy.
He's amazing.
yeah.
As I've gotten older, now I'm
Now
more
I don't have to
impressed with
get down
him.
on the ground like Aaron Rodgers. All right.
See, I'm telling you, he's on this
So-
Aaron Rodgers kick or something.
I don't know.
I was thinking about that.
He's not a
My
Jets
family's
fan, to my
watching on
knowledge.
the internet. They're gonna, what? I'm gonna get calls after this. Okay, so we have been using AI for a long time, but this makes AI central to almost everything we're doing, and it fundamentally changes how we build applications, how we run applications. It changes everything. For example, we're not going to be writing new applications anymore in Java. Not new ones. I mean, we're continuing projects that started in Java a while ago, and they will go on for a very long time. We're not converting from Java to anything else. We're continuing to use Java. But if we're starting a brand new project, we're generating that code. We're not writing it. We're not handwriting it anymore. We're generating that code in this thing called Apex. And this application generator is a no-code system.
Salesforce used to have Apex code.
And we have improved, because of the new technology, we have improved Apex dramatically over the last couple of years, to the point now where virtually every one of our new applications is going to be generated by Apex. The autonomous database, which has got a small percentage of Oracle databases in the world, are our new autonomous database. That's going to change. It's going to become a much larger percentage. The Oracle database, there's been a long debate about the Oracle database, a relational database. Is that the best way to go? Or we really should use an object database like Mongo and use conventional gets and puts and not worry about this schema thing you have to build. Well, we've solved that problem. We've ended that debate, and I'll explain in a minute. We've added vector capability to our standard database because most people want to take these AI models, what are called foundational models, the ones built by Cohere and OpenAI, XAI, and others. They want to take these standard foundational AI models, then they want to specialize them for law or for medicine or for some other field. And they want to use their own training data.
So just to clarify, they're using the word vector as
the best way to do that is
specialized
put that
versions of
supplemental
LLM.
training data in an Oracle vector
That's
database.
the idea of the word.
And that's what
I
we
don't
built,
know.
because we can move that data into the training machines faster than anybody. And the next thing is our data intelligence, our analytics platform, what used to be called our analytics platform. is now a data intelligence platform because
Interesting, because that's following the same lead
looking
as
at the data
Salesforce.
using
They were
AI.
calling it. It's
And
not
then
the AI.
it
It's not AI.
itself
It's the
is a
data cloud.
repository for so much
Similar
data.
idea.
You're using that data intelligence platform as a source of data to specialize large language models. I'm going to deal with each one of these. Okay, Apex. From Java programming to we're generating new applications. Cerner New Millennium, generated with Apex. Fusion Marketing, generated with Apex. Banking applications. Back up the slide, please. I didn't mean to hit the button. My fault. My bad. But please back up.
I thought he was doing it
Okay.
himself.
Cerner New
He
Millennium,
was.
financial,
He said,
Fusion
He doesn't know how
Marketing,
to go
banking,
back.
retail, hospitality. Virtually every new project is being built, or is being generated with Apex. That means the teams are dramatically smaller. The development process is fundamentally different. We prototype features and iterate, so we develop things much more quickly. When we generate an application, guess what? We don't generate security bugs. Every one of our apps that we write has to go through a security audit. Well, not the Apex app because we didn't write it. The AI system wrote it. We generated the app. It doesn't generate security bugs.
How is that a
doesn't,
certainty?
and it generates an application that is, quote, stateless without going into all of that. If the computer it's running on goes down,
how are you certain that it's not generating a bug?
They're much more reliable.
Generative AI hallucinates.
Willing to spend fewer people and less time building your application, it will be more
dangerous to you.
Yeah, how do you know?
And have a better UI.
And he said we don't. Thus, it doesn't go through
this
a
is
security
a very
audit.
big deal.
I mean, I don't know.
We've been programming in
That
Java for a
bothers
long
me.
time.
It really does.
Maybe they're using some sort of RAG technology.
The autonomous database, again, it's very cool. I mean, it's 100%
That's a limiter. It's not a
self-driving database. You don't need a DBA.
Remember what Steve Miranda said?
It installs itself, configures itself, updates itself.
Maybe there's a human
itself,
check. I don't know.
Tunes itself,
Larry's
does all of that
saying
stuff
no, we don't need to.
Still,
I don't
it
get
was.
I mean, again, it's not my world particularly, but I don't get
of our customers.
I really don't. It scares me a little when I hear it.
Even inside of Oracle, it wasn't used by Fusion, wasn't used by NetSuite. That's all changing. All of our new applications are starting with the Oracle Autonomous Database.
Well, that's good.
And Fusion and NetSuite are converting the Autonomous Database. Everything we have that's current, everything that we built a while ago, everything that's strategic and on the cloud will be Autonomous Database. It's because it's so much more secure. If you don't have human labor, yeah, you save money, but all the security errors, almost all the security problems are caused by human error. And if there is no human labor, there is no human error. The only way you can build a secure system, a truly secure system, is to eliminate human error.
I guess what he's saying is
self-driving cars will
there's
not
fewer
crash.
and fewer errors if it's more if human error is taken
1%
out
is
of it.
often, 1/10% is often than human
Can't be
driven
0%.
cars.
No, it's not. And
automation is much more
authoritatively
reliable, much more
speaking about that.
much safer
I don't see that as
than doing it
possible.
Perfect.
It's basically saying it's perfect.
Fully elastic in the cloud. So
Nothing
let's
is.
say you're running basic accounting system, and once a month or once every 2 weeks you run your payroll, and you're a big company, you're a big retailer, and you have a few 100,000 employees, and the payroll takes a while to do all the calculation, all the withholding tax, vacation days, all of this other stuff to do all the calculations. And to get that done quickly, you'd like to allocate even more processors. Well, the autonomous database is completely elastic. If you need more processors, you immediately allocate them, use them, run 10 times faster. When you're done,
the target for all this, like
you give them back to the pool.
100 or
so
afford all
it's
this.
much faster. You get the processors you need.
Maybe, but big company.
When you don't need them, you give them back. So you only pay for what you use.
Bob Stutz's model.
This is not how other cloud databases work.
Yep.
They don't, you say, I want 8 processors or 16 or 32 or 64, and you pay for them whether they're working or not. In our case,
Pay for utilization.
you go faster, returns it. If your
that's
database
great.
is doing nothing, there are no processors allocated, and it costs nothing.
There you go.
So it's much higher performance, much lower in cost, and because of no labor, much more secure.
Right there with you, Larry.
Object data, relational database. The big relational database is much more powerful. The only issue that programmers have with relational databases is they have to predefine what's called a schema. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but you have to predefine the schema before you start programming. Programmers say, I don't want to do that. I just want to start coding. I'll define my, I'll just define my user interface, which are JSON documents or what are called JSON objects in JSON notation. And there are databases that support JSON. There's JSON data. We have one too. We have one too. But what we do now is we generate the schema from the JSON documents. The programmer doesn't have to worry about the schema anymore. We automatically generate this schema. You just want to worry about your user interface and your documents. Start programming, we'll generate the schema, and you'll end up with a relational database foundation. Even though you did nothing, the system will generate it automatically. And you have the power of SQL as a query language. And you have the simplicity of a JSON, just dealing with documents, just dealing with your user interface program that you write. Easier to write programs.
Why do you need the user interface?
The programs are durable.
They're doing all of that.
You have a powerful query language. You get the best of both worlds. And they absolutely coexist because we generate the schema. Lots of things are changing. Most customers are not going to be building the same thing that XAI is building or OpenAI builds or Cohere builds. They're not going to be building one of these foundational large language models. They're not going to be trying to solve the self-driving problem and process vast amounts of image data and build a special neural network just to handle the image data. They're not going to be doing that. Again, Cohere does. OpenAI does, XAI does, but most people are going to take what Cohere builds and they're going to, just like sending your kid to college, and then after college you send them to law school.
Between Dreamforce and Cohere is really
got a lot of. They're going to start with a college-educated kid from Cohere, and then send them to law school or send them to medical school to train them specifically on medicine. And that's what Oracle, we make easy in the Oracle Cloud. You can come to the Oracle Cloud, start, let's say, with a Cohere foundational model, and then take supplementary data. Let's say we take the Cerner EHR data, anonymized, of course, we anonymize it, and we use that EHR, that medical data, to specialize the Cohere AI model on medicine. So we train it on medicine. And that's exactly what happened. A company in Israel called Imaging actually did that. They took a bunch of cancer biopsy slides and fed it into the AI model. And they're now the computer is now able to diagnose cancer in a matter of minutes. I don't know if Imaging is here at Cloud World, but it's a remarkable team from Israel that's done absolutely brilliant work. So
Paul's re-energized mic.
But this will be a more normal thing to do than a lot of people will be building these specialized models. Not many companies are going to build foundational models, and that makes complete sense. We're doing the same thing, by the way. We're not taking biopsy slides and trying to train a model for cancer detection, but we are taking a lot of electronic health data and training it to give doctors orders, whether it's discharge notes or, but again, the idea is to give the doctor a draft of a discharge note or a draft of an order. The doctor reviews it, edits it, and then submits it. So the model is making the doctor's job easier. It is not taking over the doctor's job. The idea is this is a very, very powerful tool that makes the physician's job whether the physician is diagnosing something using imaging or
I
placing
think
an
it's going to be
order
really
for a patient in a hospital
addresses
using
developers losing their jobs.
Okay.
They all pretty much have been saying
one of the
everything
things we do is
with
we take
AI.
the biopsy data from imaging. They keep it private. It goes into our cloud. But one of the interesting things is we can't see it. No one else can see it. It's private to imaging. So a lot of people are very concerned about sharing their training data. Let's say we have an investment banker that's a customer and they have a bunch of financial trading data that they don't want to share with the world, but they'd like to use it to train a model. Well, in the Oracle Cloud, your training data, you can train and specialize a private model with your private data that remains private after training. And we've done that for software companies and for financial services companies,
this is all
medical
the most
companies.
important
In fact,
piece
last year I
in
said
terms of getting customers
the
on
reason
board.
we're optimistic
And it feels
about
like
being able to make real
Salesforce
progress
probably did a more extensive
automating
job of going into
the
details
world
around
of
that
medicine, which is enormous,
so far.
is that we're not trying to do it alone. And it's important that we have partners like Ronan working on part of the problem and partners like in imaging working on other parts of the problem. And we provide some of the fundamental tools that make their job.
I find it's interesting too that whether you're talking about the CX side or the HR
I'm not
side,
sure there's anything more
they sort of say, we're not going to talk about how we're
right now
training models.
than our new
I think that's
Oracle
those
Cloud Data
customers want to
Intelligence
know those
platform.
details too.
Yeah.
Especially,
maybe
and
it's they're trying to.
You can't just
Oracle Analytics
takes care of that. You've
plus
got to be able to
generative AI.
explain that to customers
Yeah.
at the CX or the EX
Specific
level.
example I'd like to cite
Maybe they're
is Oracle's
telling
new
customers
public
a little
health data
shorten their
intelligence
understanding of this and
now,
saying maybe you need to focus on this before you get to that.
Used to be,
I don't know if
back
they're
in
going
the
to give
day,
them
this
time to
started
do
as a
that.
project called Cerner Healthy Intent. But we've fundamentally, we've rewritten Cerner Healthy Intent. We built it since we bought Cerner. And it's become the Oracle Public Health Data Intelligence Platform. And we've unified national population scale health data. This is designed to take all of the EHR data for a country, for all the patients in a country, and put it together. All the diagnostic laboratory data, everything, putting that into a single Oracle autonomous database for the entire population of the country. When you do that, when you take all of this health data and put it in one place, you get enormous benefits. Suddenly, the first benefit is when you go to train AI models, you have 1,000 times more data than you used to have.
Yeah.
You have all the data. Often for a drug, the best data you had what you obtained during the clinical trial. But once the clinical trial is over, they don't gather nearly as much data after the trial is over. This is like a clinical trial that goes on forever, a clinical trial for everything that goes on forever. We keep collecting all of this data. And then we use that data to train models. And that enables, the answers we get from those models enable detailed personalized medicine. Now, one of the most common prescriptions in the world is a drug called a statin, which lowers cholesterol. And there are a number of statins. And I happen to be on a statin called Crestor. And I talked to my doctor, who's a very good doctor, very fancy doctor and a molecular biologist.
You would have to think
said,
he
well,
would.
how did you decide Crestor versus this drug or that drug or that drug? I said, well, you're a guy, you're European descent. We really, truth is we don't have a lot of data. It was kind of an educated guess, if you will. We thought, given your family history and what we know about you, we thought that Crestor was a pretty good guess. Well, wouldn't I like to know, given my genomics, given everything you know about me, if you had all of my health records, you could tell me exactly what the best statin for me was, and the best statin for everybody, but not just statins, a variety of different drugs. You just made better choices based on who I was and what you knew about me. You can do that. You can do that if you have this national population scale data on public health, and you collect all the laboratory information and all the diagnostic information. You have this wealth of data that will help doctors make much better decisions of what therapeutics to give you, and that will deliver better outcomes at a much lower cost. By the way, better outcomes, anything keeps you out of the hospital is lower cost. So strangely enough, everyone likes better outcomes. The patient and the payer. That works out for everybody. Mistakes are very costly in terms of human suffering, sometimes human life, and
You hear me now?
And money. Just that. So with this new Oracle Public Health Data Intelligence platform, we have this fabulous training data, and we can do personalized treatment, get better outcomes for millions of patients. I'll say it again. I'm not sure there's anything we're working on here at Oracle that's more important than this. TK Anand is having a session on this, and I invite all of you who are interested in healthcare, please don't miss that session. Okay, so other things that we're doing. One of the most important things if you're training AI models is having the information, having the data to train the AI models. And you'll be shocked that some data still isn't digitized. Some medical data isn't digitized. The quantity of medical image data, whether they're MRIs or scan or these fancy two-tube Siemens scanners, even sonograms. Sonograms aren't saved. Biopsies sit on glass slides, drawers. They're not digitized by and large. I mean, a small number are digitized, but the vast majority of them are not. We don't capture this data and digitize it and vectorize it for training data. And we should, and we're in the process of doing that. The Cerner Careaware, what started as Cerner Careaware, again, is now become a huge IoT project for here at Oracle, where the patient monitoring that goes on in the hospital to see, and they keep track of your blood pressure, obviously, and your temperature and your how much oxygen is in your blood, all of that, because if you drop below a certain threshold, an alarm goes off in a nurse's station and someone comes in to see you. But that's not recorded. That's not permanently recorded. We'd like to start permanently recording all of that. So we'd like to make sure that the systems in the hospital, the patient monitoring systems, records all of this data so we can use it to train systems. Diagnostics is set to captures. The images are so large, sometimes they're not captured at all. If you go in and you're pregnant and you get a sonogram, that sonogram is not stored digitally. There's usually a technician or a physician that looks at the sonogram and actually measures the skull of the fetus and the length of the spine and looks for problems like the umbilical wrapped around. That's all done looking at this sonogram image, a human being looking at the image. Having a computer assisting with that would be a big help for the physician or the technician. Recording that would be a big help if you miss something and you go back and find it again. You shouldn't be measuring stuff on a screen. The computer should provide all of that. Plus, a lot of these home devices and wearables give us the opportunity to collect even more data. But all of that needs to be integrated and used as training data, and that's a project we're working on. Again, we have partners in that
I
effort.
actually really
who,
like their
will be
buy-in to
announcing
health. I don't know what it is, and I can't say that
The,
as an analyst that's the smartest thing
we
for me to
capture
say.
other data. It's
But
really
at the same
interesting.
time,
Inside
I
of a
just
hospital, one of
from
the
a
biggest
personal
problems
standpoint, I guess,
is their
I
inventory.
just
You're
like
having a
the way
certain
they
kind of
think
surgery on
about
Monday,
using
and the
Cerner and
surgical
tying
nurse, he
themselves to it,
may on
which
Friday
really
run
will
around in a variety of
improve
places
the
and collect
efficiency
all of
and
the
effectiveness
things
and
you need:
also innovate
tranexamic
in
acid to
health
stop
systems,
bleeding,
which I
the
am
doctor's
glad
favorite
somebody is
gloves,
taking
for
point on
operating,
in the
the
technology
doctor's
world
favorite
on, and it
scalpels.
looks
People
like
have
it's them.
personal preferences. All of this, take it all
Now,
out
to
of
be
it
honest, even
and
with Health
hide it
Cloud and all the other
in a
things
ceiling
Salesforce has,
tile
I am most impressed on
outside the
this
operating
specific
room. So
area,
when Monday
what
comes,
they
they'll
are
have
doing
everything that
more
they
than
need.
anybody
They
else.
withdraw it from inventory that way.
This is like probably their
They
biggest
don't know what the current
differentiator. That
inventory is. They don't know where things are.
buying Cerner with
They
$30
have
billion,
crash carts. If they need tranexamic
completely
acid very
and
quickly, they
completely
go to a crash cart
immersing
and get it.
into the
Tranexamic
scale
acid
of
is something that
healthcare.
stops bleeding very fast.
This is
Everybody
really
knows the first
something
thing you
that
do is stop
nobody else
bleeding.
can say they can do,
So one of the things we're building
from infrastructure
as
all the way
part
to
of
up to apps, up to the
our
Gen
fusion
AI,
products actually
all around health
is an
at
IoT
the
system
level that they
that
have and all
keeps
the
track
data
of
they
all of
have
this
now.
stuff, that has RFID
It's
tags on
pretty
all of
huge.
the inventory,
Yeah,
and we
I mean,
know
there's
exactly
value in what they're
not only
doing,
how
like
much the
even this
hospital has,
RFID
where
tags
everything
to
is located
track
if you're looking for something.
uh,
So that's all being
leaders,
automated
basically.
by supply chain. We're
And again, there
Cerner
it
had a
goes,
robotics
supply
group
chain. I
that
still
was
think,
automating
I will say it
laboratories.
a million times
Automating in
until somebody
laboratories
at
is great
Oracle
for the
actually hears
laboratory,
me,
but the laboratory
uh,
also should also
that
send the
they
results
are
and store them directly
underestimating
in the
how
electronic health
good their
record.
own supply
We
chain
need to do
things
that.
are
We
and
need to
the
do
innovation
both
they're
of those.
bringing to it.
We're working
They'll
on
say
that.
they're not underestimating it, but they don't
And then
emphasize it enough.
robots
Well, I
are
think their
need to
issue is
build
they
some
have
of these
so
medical
many things
devices
going on.
if you want to
It's
make
It's
them
hard
okay.
to.
inexpensive
You know
Well,
what?
and
I
highly
get it. I think
reliable.
that's the
And I
issue
think
with a lot of this stuff
we
I
they
agree
do.
we
with you.
have a
It's
It's
really
hard
hard
to
to
interesting
emphasize.
video
They
of
have to kind of figure out a way to, I
the
guess,
The
put a
Cerner
list together
robotic
and
system that
try to
automates
make
the
sure they don't
laboratory.
forget
It's
about the
I
things that
guess
are at the
so I
top.
press
I
another
agree.
button
It's
to put the video
ecosystems
back.
and platforms. It's just that there are certain things you do better and more than other companies. And I honestly, I used to think SAP still had, even much as SAP irritates the crap out of me. I used
I
to
mean,
think
it's
SAP
very
had
interesting.
the
This is
best supply
this
chain
is the Cerner system
capabilities.
that
I now don't think that. I
we
think these
got when we
guys do.
bought Cerner.
And again,
And
again,
it actually
caveat
didn't have a
being
lot
not
of
a
people
supply
working
chain
on it. It had been a
expert. I know
de-emphasized
enough
area in
about it.
Cerner. It was very important for us. That was a quick video. It was very
Really good.
important for us because we thought we need to automate the labs. We need to automate the labs, and we need to collect the data directly out of the labs and put it in the EHR and actually send the lab results to the doctor, to the patient, electronically on the patient's smartphone. For example, you go to the lab and have a PCR test for COVID, and there should be an automated way that you can notify a patient, what those test results are. An automated way you can notify your physician, what the test results were. An automated way to put that in the electronic health records. Next video I'm going to
Like
show
they
you
took the biggest, most
is
important
another
use case
robot project
to
at Oracle.
tackle and to
This
showcase
was an
all these
ongoing Oracle
things
project during
working
COVID,
together to solve.
where
Yep.
we're
And
building
it's
a
healthcare.
microfluidics
Well,
blood
that's been
lab
thematic almost,
for
really.
COVID immunity test.
When the
And
customer interviews at
this is
Socrates
kind of a
this
next
morning were
generation.
those
I hope they
the
play the
ones
video.
designed to show you the platform and the ecosystem at work.
They're building these microfluidics discs that test you for your immunity levels for COVID. I mean, right now, I think I'm scheduled for yet another booster tomorrow with the latest
I'm waiting till I
variant
get back to that.
of COVID, because there's really no convenient way, easy way for me to find out what my COVID immunity is. I just know how many boosters I've had. I didn't know what my immunity level really is. So there's this company that's working on a blood test that will measure your immunity level.
Wow.
And you do the blood tests in these little disposable laboratory in a disc, and we're building the robots that build the discs. So we're building robots that build blood lab robots, if you will. And that robot is attached to the internet, and it will tell you and your doctor at the same time what the results are. So it is, again, collecting data. and making the data available to patients, to physicians, and the anonymous version of that data available to AI models for training. There's enormous amounts of data that's going that we need to collect. There's enormous amount of training data that we need to use to build these models that will provide information and help to people in the healthcare industry. But right now, this is going to shock you, genomics data is discarded. And Oxford Nanopore was trying to store their data, their genomics data in the cloud, and it became so expensive they decided just to throw it away.
Wow. Jeez.
Just throw it away. Imaging, which would love to look at 100 times more biopsy, more images of biopsies than they currently have. But those images of biopsies are on slides, they're not even digitized. And one of the good things about the Oracle Cloud being less expensive is the Oracle Cloud now provides an economical solution to this problem. We can digitize the slides. We can save the genomics data. We're not going to be throwing it away. Instead, we're going to be feeding it to big AI models, where we get a huge, huge payback. Again, payback in terms of better outcomes and lower costs in medicine. Okay, I've used as my example for most of AI medicine, but there are other industries that can be transformed using these 21st century technologies. And generating applications. What does it mean when I say we're going to generate applications rather than write them in Java? I said teams are going to be smaller and they're going to write applications faster. Does that mean that we're going to have massive layoffs here at Oracle? No. No, we're too ambitious
We'll only have small layoffs here.
R is going to try to do a lot more. We're going to because we can generate programs, we can tackle things that are much bigger in scale than we've been able to tackle in the past. We have better tools for building applications. We can build better applications faster. So that means we're going to be using the same technologies to build more applications and more industries. And I thought I'd give you a couple of interesting examples. So Apex, front and center, an application generator. Don't hand code things. Autonomous database, population scale data, runs without a DBA, without a driver. Robots and sensors. So what are the kind of things we're looking at? Well, along with a partner, actually Danny Ellison's
because
company,
Larry's kind of in his element when he gets back into his
an industry even more primal
when he's talking the visionary side.
We're looking at the agriculture industry, which started about 10,000 years ago.
I'm glad he
in the
sat
floods
down
on the
because
Nile Delta.
it just feels like it's
Egypt
more
was the huge
natural what he's
supplier of
talking
grain,
about. It's
to the Roman
I know
Empire.
that there's a lot of work that went into putting this together, but it just doesn't
Actually,
feel
there
like
was no Roman
scripted in
Empire
any way
10,000 years ago.
which I like.
That was
Me too.
a couple thousand years ago. But agriculture started 10,000 years ago on the Nile. So when you grow indoors, it turns out you use a tiny fraction of the water than when you grow outdoors. 98% less water. And water is our most precious commodity. We are running out of fresh water. And as our climate changes, we need to adapt to those changes. We need to slow the rate of change, and we also need to adapt to the change. And droughts are now occurring more frequently in the Horn of Africa, in Ethiopia and Somalia. And one approach is to grow with less water, grow indoors with less water. You also use much less land when you grow indoors, because the plants don't reach full size until almost right before they're harvested. And if you have a greenhouse and you migrate the plants, you start them small and give them a little more room and a little more room and a little more room. and then a lot of room right before you harvest them, then you go back to seedlings. You save about 90% of the land when you grow indoors.
You know, this is interesting
So
because
we don't have to burn
Schroeder
down
talks
the
a lot
Amazon
about,
rainforest to create more
this
arable
stuff
land
in,
for farmers.
farming,
We don't have to
being able
steal
to
animal
do
habitat in
things that you
Africa
wouldn't
because we need
typically
more
hear in
arable
a
land for
traditional
farmers.
tech,
We have enough
kind of interesting to hear
arable
him
land
talk
to
about
grow
it.
all the food we need, but we need a combination of growing indoors and outdoors. We need to grow near population centers. So we don't grow in Chile and then ship that food to China. And you don't grow just in Chile's outdoor growing season. The great thing about growing indoors is every day is a growing season. Every day is a harvest. You can grow near population centers. And if you don't transport the food as far, you dramatically lower the greenhouse gas emissions produced. And by the way, agriculture, I think it's something like 35% of all greenhouse emissions, gas emissions. By the way, I'm not talking about indoor greenhouses you're growing in. I'm talking about the planet Earth is one big greenhouse. 35 agriculture is responsible for about 35% of CO2 and methane and other greenhouse gases. So grow closer to big cities. A harvest every day means you have less expensive, fresher, more nutritious food. And you have better job security because it's not seasonal. It's not, there's a growing season in Chile, you harvest a bunch of strawberries in Chile, you go down there, and then once the harvest is over, you're done. You migrate someplace else to harvest some other crop. This is it's more like a factory job. You go there every day, there's a harvest every day. There's more job security that way, but there's also better job quality. If you're harvesting, even if you're harvesting by hand, it's not a robot harvest, you're harvesting by hand, you're doing it sitting down in a climate-controlled area. That's way better than leaning over with a knife and cutting an artichoke off a plant growing on the ground. So it's altogether vastly more productive and better for everyone to grow indoors. There are challenges to do this. You got to build a greenhouse that works efficiently any place in the world. That might mean you have to put in a local solar power station. We do that. Or you got to build a complete growing system. It's got to be the greenhouse building, the irrigation systems, the sensors, the robots. You got to design that all together. It's like a car. Every single piece. The greenhouse is a unit. They're all the same. It's a standard greenhouse design. It can grow lots of different crops. You have a robot factory that builds them. You put them into standard shipping containers. You have a robot that digs the foundation of the greenhouse and you snap it into place. You snap it into place very quickly. You assemble it very quickly, these modules very quickly, and it's always connected to the cloud. It's always gathering data. There is always being directed by the cloud. The nutrition we detect when a plant that doesn't have enough water, doesn't have enough nitrogen. It's by a cloud system, and the irrigation system puts nitrogen in the water and takes care of that problem. It's a modern approach to an industry that's 10,000 years old. Sound familiar? We collect huge amounts of training data about sunlight in different areas, nutritional data. The plant images tell us when they're ready to transplant, when they're ready to harvest, the plant genetics allows us to develop new varieties, more robust varieties that grow better in different climates and are
one thing
more
that's
desirable in different cultures.
Fascinating to me. I mean, whether I don't know if this is the best method or not. I'm not talking to that, but one of the things that's fascinating to me about Oracle's evolution as a company and Larry's actual evolution as a
people don't go in the growing
president
area because you don't want to
is
contaminate the
in the
plants. You
last
don't want
few
to have
years, and especially this year with what we're just
E.
seeing with
coli,
health
insects,
and now
so you don't
food,
need any pesticides
that
because it's
Oracle
really
is
room. You're
being much
growing
more public about their attempt to solve,
And it's not
or at
like
least
a
to support the
fantasy
solution
or
of
just imagining.
major problems in the world,
The company
which
has about
was not their
almost a
history
million
at
square feet
all.
that's currently growing.
It almost seemed like
This
they were
is
ignoring them
the
for years.
latest
Now
version
they're
of
really
Greenhouse. I
out
mean, we
front
see
with
kind of
what they're
on
doing
the
in a
left-hand side of the
really
picture.
amazing
You
way.
can see the overhead robot lifting up several rows of plants to be moved to be transplanted.
Yeah,
It
I
just
can
will be
recall
moving,
just a few
moving it
years
into
ago
the
his
harvesting
keynotes being
area.
very internal focused. You know, where
New
this is very
generations
much
of the
looking at
so
Yeah,
the
health
the
issues,
greenhouses
Cleveland
producing
environment,
in Hawaii, they're
sustainability.
greenhouses producing in Canada.
And look at
And this new the latest generation of greenhouse is being developed in Southern California, and you can visit it if you want to in the fall. So congratulations, Danny Ellison team. They're doing a fantastic job tackling a problem that's 10,000 years old. They're using Applied Dimensions is using the Oracle Cloud, the autonomous database, NetSuite to manage the
this is
business,
Larry at his
and
best.
collaborating with
Back
the
when he was
Oracle
back
engineering
with,
team on
like
AI,
when he was talking
IoT,
network
robotics,
computing
analytics,
years ago,
and
where it
with
was
Tesla
much more
on the
simple,
satellite network.
but equally as
Okay.
not equally as important.
Another
Important relative to the
thing I
time.
think we need
I
very
also
much
think,
is better
you know,
support for our first
there were
responders.
several,
And
I guess it was
here,
Supreme World at the time,
this is an Oracle
where it
project.
felt like he was
So we
much
built
more
a
combative and
network
competitive
Yeah.
for
in
our
terms of
first
with
responders,
SAP
an
and
audio visual
Salesforce.
network
No, he hasn't mentioned
that
really
never
them at all,
fails, that always
because I
works.
think
I
they've
know,
got
I mean, the
something,
tragedy
a
in Maui,
story
one of
to
the
tell
things that
that you
contributed to
don't
the
have to
tragedy
bash anybody,
was they
because
lost
it's
the
something
cellular
that
network. The
really
cellular network
nobody
failed.
else is tackling and
This
really
will
can
never fail
tackle. I think
because it's not just a
this has probably been one
terrestrial
of his
network, it's
best
also a satellite
keynotes of
network.
the last
Both of
several
them
years.
I
operate
agree.
simultaneously.
I mean, so, to be honest, and this might sound really
So
dopey, but
it's a network.
some of that just
First
comes from
responders, the
age.
network
You
is
know,
not allowed to
it's
fail.
again, nothing morbid about it. You realize your
And
time is less
always on. It's a
than
combination
you
of
had
5G
a
and
year
satellite
before,
connection.
and
It's for
which is
electronic
everybody really.
or
You could be
emergency
three,
medical
and that's
technicians,
true.
firefighters,
But
police officers.
these
They have
things become much more
they wear
important in terms of
computers.
the
The
legacy you
police
want to leave in the
they
world
actually wear computers.
than
If a fireman
the
falls down, if a
quality
policeman
of
falls down, you know the accelerometer on the computer does
semiconductor.
Yeah.
These become the actual outputs and
firefighters
outcomes that you want
always
to
on
see.
cameras. The police have
I
always on
mean,
cameras.
they
Those cameras
literally
are
are
not
the only ones
recording
I can think of that actually
on
approach
the
it
camera.
at
The
the
camera
scale
is
at which he's talking
transmitting
about.
to
Yes,
the internet
they're
and to a
huge.
command center.
And
You can
also,
see
this
where the
appeals to his
you can see where the
techie
firefighter
in
is.
it completely, because this is all robotics
So
and,
there's a
you
command center,
know, I
real-time
mean,
command center.
it goes right to
So
his heart too.
the,
Well,
the
think about all
EMT
the
is
different
never
things
alone. They're
he
always
got
in
into detail
contact
on the
with
health
the
stuff
hospital
in
emergency
so
room.
many different facets.
When they got a patient
It
in
almost
transit,
makes you
the
almost not
firefighter
think about, well,
is
damn, this
never
dude is still a
alone
tech
when they're
titan,
fighting a brush fire.
and it sounds like
They're
he's
connected by
he's
satellite, and if
fully
the wind
entrenched in the
changes,
healthcare stuff
He's
now.
the
But
command center
that's
will
not his
notify them of that
primary thing.
no,
to avoid a
no,
tragedy.
I'm impressed. I am
A police officer who's
seriously
in
impressed.
a young police officer who's in a difficult situation, a rookie police officer, always has supervision. There's always someone in the command center who sees exactly what that officer sees and can assist them and supervise them. So a lot of the tragedies, sometimes under pressure, people make mistakes. EMTs make mistakes, police officers make mistakes, firefighters they're now always being supervised and assisted in doing their very difficult jobs with the people in the command center collaborating with the people in the field. That's real. That was the first Oracle police car. Excuse me. And we had to put in, if you will, a Tesla-like screen in the Tesla position where the application, the navigation application, checking drivers, checking license plates, things like that. All is done. All voice activated. Everything is voice activated. If there's an incident the officer is driving to, they will see what the officer who's already on site sees from their camera. They'll see what's on the audio video network. Our next generation police car is coming out very soon. It's my favorite police car. It's my favorite car, actually. It's Elon's
We saw
favorite
that last year.
No, that doesn't look anything like the one last year.
It's incredible.
No.
I know too much about it. Some of it's still to be disclosed. But among other things, it's very safe, very fast. It's got a stainless steel body, and we don't have to add a screen to it or we don't have to add cameras to it because already we actually use their existing cameras.
So this is some sort of a
to put our
collaboration between. Yeah, there's a Tesla thing right there.
Are up for people in the Tesla vehicles. You can use a non-Tesla vehicle, and we can enhance it, or you can use a Tesla vehicle. All this stuff is up and running. It's actually deployed in Stanislaus County, I know, for the police, and I believe also for the fire, which one command center. Stanislaus County is a rural area in California near Yosemite Valley, and of course it's an area. California summers are getting drier also, and an area vulnerable to brush fires, and we're very worried about, again, brush fires and firefighters who are in remote areas where there is no cell service. So we have to communicate with firefighters
it's
by
so striking.
using satellites. And
5 years ago, it was all bits and bytes
in a safe way using
data and all that. And he's talking about real life stuff here.
Fabulous
it's
during
And
the dry
these are
season.
really important things too.
They can be used for
that's the other thing.
It's just such a
my
striking.
brother-
Public health.
Forest fires, they can be used for
Public health,
urban
social
areas,
justice,
during
sustainability.
heavy traffic. They provide improved situational
It's a really
awareness.
Transformational
Very important during
keynote
fires
compared
to
to what he was
what
talking
streets
about
are
5,
open
10
and what
years.
streets are closed, and know immediately, and be able to let people know
And no digs at
immediately
competitors. So
what's the best
No.
way to exit the area.
You
What's
know,
the
this
safe
is the
path
this is the
out
world
of
my
the area.
brother lives in, and he's
Okay.
considered one of the big
This is
experts.
you'll probably be grateful.
And
This is my
I
last
will
topic.
tell you, what he's doing. I'm
My
literally
last
going
topic
to, when
is
this is
multi-cloud.
done, I'm going to text my brother.
Last week I
Tell
was
him to
up
take a look
in
at it.
Redmond,
It's that
Washington,
important.
Satya Nadella, the CEO
This ought to be interesting.
of Microsoft, and we had a wonderful chat, and we agreed on one big idea, and that big idea was clouds should be open. They should not be walled gardens. Clouds should be interconnected. And customers already use multiple clouds. I mean, people don't go to one and only one cloud.
Look at that shot coming in. It's a new angle. They never showed that.
There are
shot.
4 hyperscalers, AWS, Microsoft, Azure, Google, and us. And there are a lot of application clouds. But there's still cloud. But people use stuff from AWS, and they use stuff from Google, and they use stuff from Oracle, and they use stuff from Salesforce, and they use stuff from ServiceNow, and it's our job to let customers, once customers choose what they want to use, to make all of that stuff work seamlessly together, to interconnect those clouds in such a way that if you want to use the Salesforce sales automation application, and then have a data warehouse in Oracle, for example, where you mash up that data with other data, that's a very simple, straightforward thing to do because the 2 clouds are connected. If you want to use OpenAI's ChatGPT with an Oracle autonomous database,
You see the translation of
so
that?
you want to use something from Microsoft, and so you want to use Microsoft Teams, you want to use Microsoft Office, you want to use ChatGPT, any of the Microsoft services, ChatGPT, with Oracle and Oracle, that should be easy to do. There shouldn't be a wall between Microsoft's cloud and the Oracle cloud. There shouldn't be a charge if you want to move your data out of the AWS cloud and put it into a database in the Oracle cloud. That is your data. I think, so those clouds should be interconnected and they should seamlessly interoperate. And we used to call that open systems. And we think, Satya and I think, the world's going back in that direction. Customers are insisting on it because they use multiple clouds.
This is such a dramatic change.
This dude used to
We
kill these
started
guys.
experimenting
No.
with this back in 2019.
It's
We
amazing.
connected our clouds. We had a lot of successful customers.
We'd be curious
And
what our
then we decided
incoming analysts think on the
we need
closing
to
stuff when we do the closing.
make it
Did
even.
he have
It wasn't that
AWS in
easy to
there?
do.
I
We had
didn't.
high-speed interconnect.
Yeah, he
You
did.
had
He
to-
mentioned
you
them.
had to
Well, he
be
mentioned them as
fairly
four,
sophisticated
I
to
think
connect
the four
Microsoft
hyperscalers
services to Oracle services.
to
We decided
AWS,
to make it
Azure, and Google,
completely transparent. So you can go straight to the Azure portal
Oracle, and Google.
and
Not him.
configure an Oracle service like the
Personally,
Autonomous Database and connect it to a Microsoft service and make it really fast. So we've decided to do is actually build Oracle clouds right inside of Azure data centers. And full Oracle cloud inside of Azure data centers that make you can go to the Azure portal and configure everything you need from Oracle, from Microsoft, and it just works, and it works super fast. And there are no charges, there are no data egress fees. It's your data. It is your data, whether it's in an Oracle cloud, in a Microsoft cloud, in an AWS cloud, in a Salesforce cloud. It is your
last
data.
year he said it
shouldn't charge
proceeded.
you from moving
If you
it.
remember, he was setting what became this
Okay,
last year.
and again, it's the
Egress
full
and
Oracle
ingress.
cloud.
I remember that.
It's
My problem was
it's everything.
my
In fact,
brain
all
kept
Oracle clouds
making me a bird brain.
are
I
the
guess
same.
kept translating that to
All Oracle
ingress.
clouds have the exact
Right.
same hardware, the
Making me
exact same
a
software.
bird.
All Oracle data centers. The only thing they vary by is by scale. Some are big, some are small, but they all have all of the services, every one of the clouds. Because of that, because they're standardized. When you standardize something, you can automate it because they're all the same. So they use the same automation. So our cloud is very different. I mentioned the high-speed network. The other thing is the fact that they're all the same, that they're standardized, allows us to have a high degree of automation in our cloud, which makes it much less expensive to operate and much more secure. I think I said right at the beginning of the presentation, almost all security problems are caused by human error. When you automate the cloud, we have autonomous Linux, we have autonomous database. When you automate the cloud, you eliminate human labor, which makes it less expensive, and you eliminate human error, which makes it much more secure and reliable. You just got to be willing to spend
And you
less.
eliminate human jobs to a
So
certain extent too. So
we put the
can't
whole
leave that
Oracle
out.
cloud inside of the Microsoft cloud. They're co-located, so there's no latency. The network's super fast, very convenient and easy to use. Oracle has more. This surprised a lot of people. Where Oracle has more cloud regions than AWS, than Azure, than Google. Right now we have 64 regions, major regions. But in addition to these major regions, we have this very interesting thing called the DRCC, a dedicated region clouded customer. So we can put the Oracle cloud, all of it, inside of a customer data center. And so the customer can just choose what data goes in and who the users are. They can have complete control of who goes into that data center. It's the full Oracle cloud. Oracle owns the hardware. You pay for what you use. Oracle manages the hardware, but doesn't look at we don't look at the data. It doesn't manage the data. It doesn't decide who goes in there. That's your cloud. That's a dedicated cloud. You decide who goes in there. Interesting company, Nomura Research, has a couple of these DRCCs, and they're buying 2 more. They're going 2 to 4 of these. And what they do is they're a big consulting firm, an IT consulting firm, and they sell their services plus Oracle Cloud services to the financial industry in Japan. And they actually run the Tokyo Stock Exchange in the Oracle, their Oracle Cloud. It's the only case of a major stock exchange being run in a cloud, any place on earth. I mean, those applications haven't migrated to the cloud yet, except the Oracle cloud, which is highly, highly reliable. It has to be reliable. Stock
thought I
exchanges
put that
can't
in there.
stop, or people get very upset. So, and they're also a big Apex user.
Especially him.
They are Apex fans. I'm not going to say fanatics. I was going to say fanatics, but they've dramatically cut their development costs by using Apex and generating applications rather than hand coding them. We think this is an important new development. The fact that the clouds are now small enough. The full Oracle cloud is small enough. We could put one right in Azure. We can put them in. In fact, we're building, I think, a dozen of them. A dozen data centers in Azure data centers with Microsoft. We're building them at specific customer sites. A couple of big phone companies are getting them to run their network. There are a lot of examples of this, and we think right now we have more data centers than any other hyperscaler, but still we're on our way to 100. We think, looking at the price of the DRCC, we're going to be the hyperscaler that measures its data centers not on the way to 100, but really on the way to 1,000. And this thing connects to all the other clouds. So it will connect to the Salesforce cloud. It will connect to the Microsoft cloud. It will be your interconnect to all of the other clouds. Plus, it'll be your own dedicated cloud region, fully automated, fully modern, RDMA network, everything at a very
the green room is lit over
at a
here.
cost that may fit your budget.
With these comments.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Wow.
You did that. He looked like he could have been sitting there for hours as comfortable and relaxed as he was throughout his whole presentation. All right, let's get rid of that and let's bring in the crew. PJ
Can you
is
believe
back,
that?
and
Welcome
the
back,
Brohammer is back.
and Brohammer. Good to see you again, man.
Thank you, John.
Yo, what up? How we doing?
All right.
Am
hey,
I causing
went
any
through-
echoes now?
no, you're good.
Oh, you're good
Oh.
now. Perfect.
You see the magic of earphones. Okay.
Exactly right. Absolutely perfect.
All right,
All
so we
right.
just sat through it. It was a little over an hour, which isn't that bad. And I'll give him credit. It was not. I didn't get bored at all. I was riveted through the whole thing, and it's a not too many people that can just sit on stage and talk, and I would listen to without getting fidgety. But I have to say, he's one of those folks, and I would have never guessed I would have said that a couple of years ago.
So
I was going to
guys?
say, what a difference a few years makes, you know? We go
Yeah.
from speeds and feeds to Keynote overtime and trashing competitors to peace and love, sustainability, public health, and playing well with others.
yeah.
Well, he did start sort of first half of his presentation. It was too technical. It was also gobbledygook. How many times did he mention generative AI, autonomous database, clusters, how quick, important OCI and all that stuff. So I thought, oh boy, here we go again. But then, boy, what a turnaround! And I started getting worried for Larry. I'm like, is Larry getting woke? Let's use that awful word woke. I mean, we are talking about green technologies and sustainability, all those whatever bad words. And then even all this kumbaya with all these competitors, Salesforce, ServiceNow, although I did notice he didn't put SAP there. Is it now sort of an honest mistake or on purpose? It's debatable or whatever. But yeah, there is definitely some cultural change, you know.
John, what do you think?
But yeah, Rebecca. Yeah. Well, you already kind of clued us in a little bit, but yeah, go a little bit more on
Keep
what.
going. So any one of you guys, I'll come back to. I'll come back later.
If you want me maybe to to add more.
Yeah.
What I also noticed, and there is a sort of a parallel, given that we were at Dreamforce last week. So you remember how much attention Benioff gave to that AI trust layer. So I noticed that even Larry here spent at least 5 to 10 minutes about the importance. He just didn't call it trust layer or whatever, but the importance of masking the data, even especially in that healthcare cloud, about not revealing the data of the patients or citizens or whoever else. I'm not sure whether he also talked about removing bias and toxicity and hallucinations, but somehow I noticed that is a very important part of AI strategy, to take care of data and the privacy and all that. So it's interesting that both Benioff and Larry paid a lot of attention to that, even though they didn't call it the same.
So just a couple of observations to add to the mix here. I think, the cool thing is that I really hate enterprise keynotes, and I can actually deal with this type of keynote where you just ask the CEO to just sit in a chair and just talk. I don't know why it's so difficult for vendors to get over themselves and just allow that to happen, because it felt more like a conversation. Now, last year, just for context, some of the things that Larry said about healthcare didn't really totally work in his favor because they came off a little bit like Captain Ahab and Moby Dick. The idea of, creating one global healthcare database, like, pushed the boundaries of the imagination to the extreme that didn't feel credible. And I actually found myself in the opposition of defending him after last year, just because I thought he broached such an important conversation, but I didn't really think the solutions were anywhere feasible. This year, he really dialed that down. He did refer to the national database and why that could be powerful for treating, in this case, like cholesterol issues. But the point was, he scaled back some of the rhetoric. But I think the one thing I would just say is, all of these vendors need to get better at understanding that they're not differentiating from each other all that well in terms of their AI messaging. Every single vendor in the enterprise is talking about safety, explainability, responsibility, customer data privacy. And so vendors are going to have to work really hard to go beyond that, because every vendor that I hear from, including Larry today, I didn't really hear anything that made me think, oh, that's very distinct from these other vendors. And yet when they're talking, they think they're the ones that have come up with a more ethical AI approach. And the fact is that pretty much every enterprise vendor is saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree. The thing, what I really liked about this specific presentation, and also Oracle's thus thrust, was the fact that Larry seems to be in his element when he's visionary and big, right? He's always been that way. And, even as we mentioned earlier, go all the way back to network computing. I mean, the guy, when he thinks big and he thinks ahead a little bit, he's really very good at, because his thinking is kind of spot on in terms of how you actually provide value under certain conditions. And, today it was, indoor greenhouses. He's saying that's the only way to produce food. I don't know that that's true, but the concept itself, the way he's looking at it, what he's trying to do is solve a significant problem. You're always going to run across different approaches. Obviously, the first response thing, I deal a lot with it because my brother is really big in that world. And so when I saw that, I literally, after watching, I am going to make sure my brother takes a look at what he did. But again, thinking big and under really significant circumstances, and of course, the Cerner acquisition and what he talked about with health was really interesting. The one thing that I do have some concerns was that, eliminate human error by humans not doing it. I've never known a computer to be perfect either, right? I mean, yeah, there won't be any human error because humans didn't do it. It doesn't mean computers don't make mistakes. And especially when you have a AI that is, either they even justify the idea of hallucination, right? So I don't buy that. And I think his certainty on that issue is a little too much. But again, it's not my world exactly, so I can't technically say he's right or wrong. But it bothers me.
Well, actually, I can. He's wrong.
Okay, thank you.
So his self-driving cars analogy around safety is like patently ridiculous and not supported by data. And you can't support it by data because you can't actually put self-driving cars in the unpredictable situations that humans are in yet because the technology is not nearly good enough. So that was actually a really terrible example.
Right.
But anyhow, go on. I just wanted
No,
to mention.
I'm there with you. I look, it bothered me to hear somebody assuming perfection from computers, right? I just, that bothered me. That was the one point that really disturbed me when I heard it today.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I was incredibly impressed with that approach and the fact that he had a great, wonderful conversation with Satya, which, I mean, I've heard him say he's had wonderful conversations before, and I know he and Mark are still friends even when they attack each other and do everything else. But that the idea of the open cloud that he was talking to, again, those are ultimately two companies being relatively self-serving, but at the same time, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So, and he was setting that up last year with the ingress and egress of data when he really started creating that. On the whole, though, I'm kind of pleased with the direction Oracle's taking, and I think the one thing I would say, and it goes to kind of what you said, John, was most of the AI conversation I hear is pretty much the same thing. Although I have to give a little more credit to Salesforce in that they zeroed in on the trust layer last week and stayed there, right? They didn't really try to take it anywhere else, and that was much to their credit. Where here it was, I think, considerably more, generic.
It was more about security and the technical abilities to keep your data safe.
Yeah.
Where Salesforce really focused on trust that goes beyond just, I mean, table stakes are security and all that. Trust goes beyond that. And I think that was a big differentiator between this week and last week.
Yeah.
But
going back to, okay, Rebecca, you go.
The one other thing that I would have liked to have heard a little more about today, was maybe a missed opportunity, is he's talking about the power of computing to automate all of these things, to get rid of manual processes. He's talking for a room full of developers, mostly, who are seeing a lot of their jobs potentially be replaced by this automation. I think that there was an opportunity to talk about the bigger role that tech and developers can play when they can automate all these things. So it's not about job replacement, but the ability to do the more visionary stuff. And I think he could have tied that in a little more based on the themes he was talking about.
Great.
Well, I think I'll follow up on what John and Paul were talking also about these self-driving cars and all that, and I might get up in a bit of trouble. One thing that I also noticed: how many times did Larry Ellison mention Elon Musk?
well, the car, when they were talking about the car,
That was
but even Elon Musk invested in OpenAI, blah 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 blah. So, and also even elimination of all this human work and human error. Isn't that something that this genius Musk tried to do with Twitter or X? So how did that work? With is anyone sort of taking care of the shop and seeing what bots are doing or whatever on Twitter and all that kind, and making that as a dumpster fire? So hopefully Oracle doesn't go that way, and because it's much more serious company, and
I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of time spent on that. I do think that it felt like, and I think we've all sort of mentioned it in years past. It was certain parts of it was very combative, particularly when it came to certain companies. I think it wasn't like that this year, is because I think he feels pretty confident about where they are and what they have, and being able to talk about stuff that none of the others have. I mean, the full blown soup to nuts, what do they call it, from hardware to software, or some weird way of putting it, but to full all, and then now they have the data in particularly with the healthcare, they have all that health data in addition to kind of the platform for that. They've got something that can explain and show off the power of Gen AI through this particular use case from the very top to the very bottom in a way that nobody else talk about it. And I think that must make him feel a lot more confident against his competitions than in years past, because we all said it. He was throwing darts, he was calling people out. And this one, he's throwing roses and talking about collaboration, because
So
why not talk about collaboration when you have what you have,
yeah.
and you don't have to throw darts anymore?
So I think one of the reasons why I think you're totally right, and I think one of the reasons why Ellison's feeling really good about himself right now is because AI is heavily dependent on massive amounts of data running at massive scale, and there's not a whole lot of startups that can come along and make Oracle feel pain around that. And I think Ellison sees some things he can do with data that the hyperscalers can't as well. But one thing I do want to point out that is important is that they are not building their own foundational model at this time, and they're not building their own LLM. And it was interesting because they have not mentioned too much from their announcement in May that they have a partnership with Cohere along those lines, and that's where that's the partner that's going to be handling that. And I think the reason that's important is because for customers now, you need to really understand how that fits into the rest of the picture. And up until this show, Oracle was pretty quiet on that, but now they're starting to explain how this works. And I think, to me, this is really what I hope we see more of this fall. And I think Oracle made some strides here, which is start talking about that and start talking about what this is going to mean from how is your data going to move around, and what are you going to get out of it? What are you going to pay for? And to what extent are you going to get discounts based on co-innovating on early use cases? These are the kinds of questions customers really want to talk about right now. And for the most part, vendors haven't been very well prepared. So I think there was a little bit of, in Ellison's keynote, he was starting to get at some of those details, and I think that's really intriguing. Maybe we'll hear more of that the rest of the show. I don't know.
Given what you just said, it actually yesterday in the 3-hour analyst fest, one of the few things that didn't make me want to keel over was actually a brief conversation about small language models, which they're the only ones who I have heard even mention it, right? So, and that to me, you can't ignore. I'm sorry, I don't think it's just like take a large language model and extract everything you can. Well, I think that's one approach, extract the specifics you can, but also people are literally building small language models too that are industry specific, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Oracle mentioned that in the conversation yesterday in the analyst session only, not on the keynote stage. I'm sure it'll be mentioned on a keynote stage somewhere in the course of this event. But the fact, I think, and it kind of goes to your point, they're not building their own large language model. And so maybe it was just diversionary. I don't know, but maybe it was also because, they're starting to look at other means, because, Oracle obviously had a very serious, their origin story goes back to industry, right? As well as, databases. So they've always had kind of a powerful industrial bent, not necessarily that they promoted it, but it's been there. And that would play very well with, small language models would play very well with their kind of industry specific activity and behavior. So I don't know how that plays exactly, but your point, John, reminded me of that yesterday, which is, they're the only vendor I've heard so far spend a little bit of time actually talking about it.
I was, this is good point, Paul. I was in Paris in June at Dassault Systems Analyst Summit. Since I cover PLM and engineering and all that kind of stuff, and they are a huge company in that space, 6 billion in revenues. So what they told us there is that LLM are going to become commodities. So you don't want to waste time there. So what they are doing, they are developing so-called ILM, Industrial Language Model.
All right.
So the model, language model for aviation and defense, for public sector, meaning smart cities, or whatever, in whichever industries they are. And that makes sort of much more sense. And I think that is something similar what you are talking about, small language models.
Yeah.
There's just that they are calling them ILM, Industrial Language Models, industry-oriented, vernacular.
So I think what just real quickly, I think what a lot of people are really eager to see is whether we can get better results, more accurate, more useful industry results, and less hallucinations through some of the strategies like what PJ's describing. For example, C3 AI has released, I think, like 28 industry-specific large language models. And in theory, if you start with an industry model and then you also train it with industry data from that customer, you're just going to get a much stronger result than you would if you were working off of, say, Chat GPT, which has been trained on friggin' Reddit. I mean, enterprise enterprise customers don't need Reddit data in the. Now, okay, it's a little bit unfair because I don't think Chat GPT Enterprise, probably they made some changes, but the point is, but what Oracle may try to do, for example, is a different approach where they may take a large language model from their partner and then customize it, which they spoke to a little bit, and Ellison spoke to us a little bit around the value of customizing with pure data from like a healthcare use case. So the point is that no one knows exactly what's going to give the best result, but I'm excited to see if we can get better results. And I think that's what we're going to see from all these different approaches. And which one's going to win, I don't think we know yet, but that's what makes this interesting.
Rebecca, I know you've been trying to get in there for a while. So
I was going to say, yeah, to John's point, you're absolutely right. And I think it'll be really interesting to see too tomorrow in the apps keynote, how much they talk about sort of these specific use cases and how they're training models. Because, 8 weeks ago, they weren't talking about the LLMs that were underneath the Gen AI and HCM Cloud, for example. And now they are. So I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of how far they go tomorrow on that.
Well, why don't we leave it at that? Because there is another day. There's more stuff to talk about. Hopefully they'll be streaming that. I do have one bone to pick. It has absolutely nothing to do with this particular keynote. Why wasn't the CX keynote streamed? Why did we have to not? I didn't even see if it was being recorded. I think there may be an.
They were recording it. I did.
Were they recording it audibly? Because I didn't see any cameras in the room.
In the back, they had 2 cameras.
They did. Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing that. But CX needs to come up a little bit in the list of importance, I think.
They had a PTZ Panasonic and then another Panasonic.
They could do better than that. I mean, for that, I think CX, maybe they're still shortchanging CX. I don't know.
I think it was a Panasonic. No, that was a Sony. That would be.
Look, we got Panasonic.
I was going to make an FX joke out of a CX thing, but it doesn't work.
I don't know.
Long vendor.
All right. Well, it's been a long day. So let me thank PJ, who made his maiden voyage with us. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
The Bro Hammer.
My pleasure.
Coming through for us as usual. Rebecca is, we still need to do more with the
PIR.
Yeah, the Playaz in residence, but her and her sibling Anand are still.
That's right. Her sibling.
And maybe we'll be back tomorrow.
Right.
We'll see. I don't know if they're streaming the
Well,
app.
we will be back tomorrow. Actually, you and I, in any case, at what is it? At 2:15 p.m. Pacific time. Brent and I will be interviewing Jeff Wortgow.
Or what's his name again?
Now you said that.
I was going to say Studs Terkel, but that's
no.
Stig
Feldspar.
Yeah,
Stig Feldspar, aka Stig Feldspar, and Katrina Gosar and Rob Pinkerton.
Who's not going to be happy because, well, his Cleveland Browns lost
and Nick Chubb went down for the season. So it's not going to be a good day with Rob Pinkerton.
So we'll have some tissues ready for him. But in the meantime,
he's eternally sunny, so
that's right.
You're all right.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody checking this out, and we'll be back tomorrow, maybe multiple times. So, on behalf of everybody, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and
I know
you guys stay put because your video was actually being uploaded, so don't fall out just yet.
Drop off yet.
All right. We'll see you.